Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session on navigating the multifamily IoT markets. We're very excited to have you all here with us today. If you haven't met me before, I'm Kristen Hanich, Research Director here at Parks Associates. I lead our coverage of multifamily housing, really guiding our research efforts, both syndicated and custom throughout the year. Before we get started, I would like to give a special thank you to all of our sponsors for helping to make this event possible, as well as our other events as well. So this is our 2 p.m. session, as I mentioned, really taking a look at navigating the multifamily IoT markets. Special thank you to SmartRent for highlighting this session. So we are going to be taking the next 40 minutes or so to really dive into this topic, so understanding what is going on in this market, why it is appealing to folks, as well as diving into some additional details. The topics of note are really taking a look at how IoT is serving this role both as an operational tool as an amenity, and also looking at connectivity as a key enabler for deploying all of these different solutions. We're also going to be taking a look at what to expect in 2025, so there are some major developments underway. A little bit of context, again, before I get started. So we've seen in multifamily housing, there is this pendulum that tends to swing from one way to the other over every few years. The last couple of years, we have been in an operational efficiency mode. So really focusing on reducing costs, improving efficiencies. We do expect to see as this historic amount of new inventory hits the market and renewed focus on resident satisfaction, especially bringing in these new amenities. So a lot of times IoT has served kind of this operational role, but also resident satisfaction. The most interesting solutions are, of course, those that really hit both of those needs. So serving the needs of both the owners and operators as well as the residents. I mentioned Wi-Fi. It is this key enabling technology, making a lot of these IoT deployments possible. A lot of owners and operators are deploying managed Wi-Fi really throughout their properties, both inside of residential units and throughout the property as a whole. I will say that with a lot of retrofitting going on, we are seeing increased demand, not just for Wi-Fi networks, but also solutions that will work without Wi-Fi, so sparing them the expense of having to retrofit in a lot of complex connectivity. To discuss all of this and more, I have an excellent lineup of panelists here today. So very excited to dig into this conversation. Let's go through and do a round of introductions, maybe a couple of minutes for each of us. Let's see. John, you are first up in the lineup. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your work at ADT?
Thanks. Headshot's a little bit old. I guess I got to add a few pounds and 8 years to that. Thanks for everybody for joining. John Butrim, I oversee the Builder, Multifamily, and Community Association division at ADT. Basically, anything that is a commercial relationship but ends with a residential user in front of that panel or phone for the app.
Very excited to have you here with us today and kind of looking again to dive a little bit more into the subject. Eric, so you and I were talking a little bit not too long ago about kind of Kwikset and some of its movement there, so excited to hear a bit more.
Yeah, great to be here. My name's Eric Harnischfeger. I'm a senior product manager with Kwikset as part of the ASSA ABLOY Americas residential group. I'm particularly responsible for Kwikset's multifamily electronic organization for the access control market for multifamily. We're in a really interesting place right now because Kwikset is relatively new to electronic multifamily access control. But we're now part of ASSA ABLOY, which is obviously a market leader here. So I'm excited to be here and have the opportunity to talk through how we're navigating that as both part of a kind of a new entrant into the field, but also with the backing of the ASSA ABLOY establishment. Very happy to have you here with us today, Eric. And of course, Greg Mora, a longtime mainstay here at our Parks events. So Greg, can you tell us maybe a little bit about yourself, your work at Johnson Controls?
All right, thank you everybody. My name is Greg Mora, and I'm with the Global Product Security division within Johnson Controls. We have about 10 different business units, and Global Product Security is one of them, where we focus on everything from access control, video services, to a business that we call intrusion, which ties closely to our relationship with parks. A large percentage of the smart homes or connected homes today feature monitored security, and so we support the multifamily businesses like ADT and others through an extension of our products that are primarily based around security, and now increasingly are expanding into the market for builder, build to rent, and multifamily.
Thanks so much, Greg. Very happy to have you here with us again also. And Braeden, Scheer joining us from SmartRent. Braeden, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at SmartRent?
Absolutely. Well, great to be here. Thank you, everybody. I'm Braeden, Vice President of Product. I oversee our hardware and software product strategy. You know, SmartRent, we're a leading provider of smart community and smart operations software in multifamily. Our vision is to help everyone live and work smarter, and we do that through a purpose-built ecosystem of our own hardware and software, but we also have a great network of partners that help us deliver that mission, provide asset protection, operational efficiency, and a premium resident experience.
You look
Very
like your
happy to-
headshot. That's good.
Thank you. Although I need to get a new one probably.
I think we all need to update our headshots at some point. But yes, very happy to have you here with us. Also joining us, Hagan Kappler, co-founder and CEO of Daisy. Hagan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at Daisy, kind of what you guys do?
Great. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Hagan Kappler, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Daisy. Daisy is the first national installer and service provider of all the technology that you need in your home, small business, apartment, everything from TV, speakers, lighting, home security cameras, also motorized shades, the control systems that tie them all together. One day we'll be installing the robots in your home and then coming around to service them when they break, because at the end of the day, it is technology after all. So our points of differentiation are, one, being a national provider and having that brand awareness. We are the one and only national brand in that space. And then two, we have an ongoing service. So we're not just installing the technology and then kind of leaving the resident or the homeowner to their own devices, because again, technology breaks. Also, the consumer needs evolve and change over time. And technology evolves, pricing changes. I mean, we're all here at CES, and it's amazing how technology changes over time, or even in just a few months or in a year. And so we're there every quarter to help our consumers as we listen to them, help them with their needs, fix things when they break, but then install things over time. Anyway, so that's Daisy, and that's who we are. And I think I look exactly like my photoshopped
Absolutely.
headshot.
But yeah, I'm very happy to have you here with us today to discuss this topic. I think it's extremely timely. We're seeing a lot of exciting momentum in multifamily housing, especially kind of when it comes to retrofitting, what's going on there. But let's first take a little bit of a step backwards. So our audience here at CES is maybe a bit different than our usual. So I would like to first kind of dive into the topic of demand for smart living in multifamily. So what are you guys seeing that makes multifamily kind of a great market to get into when it comes to IoT? Like what kind of smart solutions are these owners and operators asking for? And Hagan, maybe you can kick us off and we can go kind of this way.
Sure. I think there's two kind of customers, right? There's the property manager and then there's the resident herself. And so from a property manager perspective, they're looking for kind of the basics. And probably this panel is best suited to answer those kinds of questions. And from our perspective, we can help with those basics. Then when it comes down to the resident, that's no different from what the average homeowner and consumer. Now, Daisy today skews more towards the luxury, higher end consumer, but you're seeing everything from television, speaker, human-centric lighting, the security cameras, again, which a number of folks on this panel can speak to, and then something that kind of ties it all together. This stuff is super complicated. What we're seeing on average is that, well, from the parks research, and again, these guys can speak to it better than I could. Jason in the back could speak to it very well. But is that on average, 22 connected devices in a customer's home, but the people are more frustrated and overwhelmed than ever. So they're really looking not just for the device themselves, but for an ongoing service. And so those are two of the drivers that we're seeing. And then from a multifamily perspective, if you think about who's really drawn to multifamily, it's going to be be a consumer who skews a bit younger. And those younger consumers are going to be looking for kind of the latest and greatest in technology, the cool, television to watch, sports on the weekend. They're going to be looking for the latest and greatest in speakers, something simple on their app. They're typically going to be a do-it-for-me type of consumer. No offense, I don't know if anybody's in this generation, but they're not really used to installing this stuff themselves. They kind of came out of the womb with the technology working like for them, and so they're not going to be installing it for themselves. There's human-centric technology that's at play here. So lighting that is working and evolving with, their kind of needs as a human, and then motorized shades that's in tune with what's happening outside. And then if you think about kind of the older consumer, there's technology that's helping with aging in place, and that's actually working with kind of their family and friends. So those are the types of technologies and the needs of our clients that we're seeing.
Yes, and certainly a lot of different potential use cases, a lot of different values, and especially as you're saying with the younger generation kind of looking for this as an amenity specifically.
Yeah, so I'd like to share Hagan's comments a bit in terms of the buyer types or the customer types, and certainly I see that as twofold. But then behind the customer, that is the resident, the person who's going to be living with the technology, and then the property manager that will be making decisions and installing and living with the result of that. I think we have to include the ecosystem of partnerships that it takes to be successful in this marketplace, and so there are challenges on all three sides. For the consumer, it's smart home tech is now becoming somewhat of an amenity for properties. They can differentiate with and compete with. Years ago, it was, stainless steel type, appliances or the flooring or finishes and things like that. And now I agree with you 100%. The demographic is shifting a little bit more around the expectation around lifestyle and amenity. And it becomes a show point, it becomes an expectation, and the connectedness to the app and the phone and what they can do and how it makes their life easier, they identify with that a little bit more. Now, I don't know that we're at a tipping point yet, but it's certainly we are, I heard it mentioned earlier, we're like on the threshold to the mass market, and I would agree with that comment. Now, the challenge for manufacturers like us that sets up is that for the property manager and for those customers that Hagan's team is servicing and others, what value do we provide then? Well, again, we're coming at it from an established long-term businesses as portfolios of products that have been reliably installed and operating over generations. So there's higher confidence. We are, a global brand, not just a national brand. So for these partners, a lot of these big property managers who are more than regional, they're national and beyond, they need a partner that they need, a single throat to choke, so to speak, when it comes to that selection. And they know that they're going to be serviced and there are going to be minimal callbacks. In a traditional security market, we refer to a quality metric known as a truck roll. Once I do the installation, do I have to go back? And one of our KPIs is to basically allow that install to go very fast with high reliability and not have to churn, not have to get called back. And so I think one of the property management challenges today is they're short-staffed and they have to learn some smart tech. So how do we make their life easier? I think that's a second layer. And third, again, I said is backed up by this ecosystem. We all have to work together and partner in a more effective way to help keep that cost of operation in line and make it attractive to then deploy to more sites smart tech. Okay, so it's not just about what the protocol is or what the what the device is itself. It's how it all plays together.
Yes, and I think one throat to choke is underrated as a measure of importance. So we've been hearing from a lot of companies that helps them quite a bit.
Yeah, maybe I'll pivot a little bit to the market itself since we have this wider audience. You saw enterprise smart home in the multifamily industry really take off in 2019 and into 2020 as COVID really forced adoption for self-guided tours, right? Apartment complexes wouldn't need a leasing agent to show a prospective resident a vacant unit. They could have technology help them out with that. So we saw it soar, right? Also during that time, as we all know, low interest rates. So more properties were bought and sold. And when properties are bought and sold, that's a time when investment happens in that property as the new investors, the buyer, wants to drive additional revenue, wants to decrease operational expenses. And so adoption was soaring. I would say it's tempered a bit more because of the size of the market today compared to 2020. The new construction, is hitting records. However, what is 500,600,000 new units being built, like compared to the total multifamily market of 42 million units? Like you can't match that by getting adoption up high enough in new construction. Now, new construction will adopt at close to, the high 80s, 90% range. But those retrofits, those existing properties are really the next area of expansion that we see.
Yes, I think we've heard rumblings that with this historic amount of new inventory hitting the market, I think it was like 500,000 in 2024 and then another 1 million expected in 2025. That is going to change some of the competitive landscape. So a lot of companies are looking to retrofits and kind of different ways of making this make financial sense for them.
Yeah, and interest rates changing, right? So interest rates changing. Those that got low interest rates in 2020 are going to be, some of those are variable that are being forced out here in the next couple of years. You'll have more transactionings happening that'll drive that increased adoption as well.
Eric, any thoughts?
Yeah, so to jump off of that as well, it's interesting what you say about retrofit. Kwikset Unite, which is our new electronic access control platform, was designed primarily for new construction because Kwikset, first and foremost, really is a company built on its relationships, from the largest builders in the country to a lot of the kind of successful local businessmen. But what we're seeing more and more is even with interest rates coming down, housing markets in the single family are still wild. So it's one of those things of how are we able to justify rents in these multifamily units, given that there are so many out there now. So renovations are definitely increasing, and to kind of pivot as well to the overarching market and demand. One of the biggest things I say about multifamily and multifamily access control as a solution, really the differentiation point between a commercial access control system and multifamily is just the level of training that the users are going to have coming into it. So for us, really the focus is on ease of use and understanding how it kind of meets the market and meets our customers, both on the property management side, and as Hagan was saying, on the resident side as well, and how it kind of fits into their life. So that level of training and kind of understanding where multifamily access control sits within this wider realm of commercial, enterprise, all the way down to multifamily is really something that we've been focusing on as well.
Yes, and then kind of like you were saying, like Hagan was saying, there is a lot of learning, I think, on the part of property staff on how to actually manage these things and get them to work properly. So how do you navigate that, and how do you make it like dead simple for somebody who might have only had a week of training?
Yeah, there's this continued trade-off between all the security in the world versus ease of use. The more customization and the more options you have, inherently the more security you have, the harder it is to use. So opening it up and understanding at what level within that user hierarchy do you expose functionality has really been a big focus for us, and it's something that we've really seen people struggle with as a barrier of entry within multifamily as well.
And you add to that, the turnover is high on property, right? So leasing staff, the agents, the maintenance team members are turning over, so training becomes even more paramount.
Yeah, our bread and butter is suburbanized garden style. And what we'll see is within the first 10 years, that site may trade hand 4 or 5 times.
So there's a lot of headwinds in this dynamic market for multifamily right now. You used to underwrite this smart home technology maybe as an amenity, maybe it's a technology fee, right, for the lease, for the residents. Retention is an issue in multifamily. Site teams are turning over at a higher rate than they've seen in the last 10, 15 years. Fed rates are high, more supply in the market. So if you're an owner in a multifamily environment trying to compete, trying to be successful, It's a new paradigm as we look into 2025, and the paradigm comes full circle into how well am I operating this community from an efficiency standpoint? Am I delivering a premium resident experience? Am I being, efficient on the tackling and blocking on site? Well, sort of the natural conclusion of this thought process isn't, is it Matter or Z-Wave or these standards that all of us talk about from a smart home perspective. It's more about the magic of what is this technology delivering to me from an enablement standpoint? Is it working well in my ecosystem of my business stack as an owner? I may be working with 15 different vendors at this property. How seamless does this access control, does this security, does this in-home IoT, allow me to sort of leverage as a differentiation point? It has become an expectation for residents, I think, to have these type of technologies on site, but it's also becoming an expectation for the on-site staff as well. Why go to the key track when I can use my phone? If I can save 1 to 2 minutes, you know what this industry really needs is scalability in their solutions. If I save the 1 to 2 minutes, that one work order, I can do that across 100,000 units and 1 million work orders. That's where this technology is going to be transformational in 2025.
I think, Braeden, you raised a very interesting point. So how are these companies measuring the effectiveness of these solutions and kind of what is driving the interest there? So you mentioned kind of with access control, looking at kind of reducing the time it takes to get work orders. And of course, there's benefits there in not having to have maintenance go pick up keys.
Absolutely. The level of detail this industry pays to the most minute operational things on site is honestly impressive. We have customers of ours that look at their entire field structure and they will be tracking the time it takes for you just to rekey a lock on move out. That one task, they're tracking that across potentially 120,000 apartment homes. Why do they track that? Well, again, it comes back to this position they're in trying to compete in a local market where maybe there's brand new supply, they can't raise their rents. And so the way they're looking at the underwriting and the performance of the smart technology boils down to NOI, it boils down to OpEx, and it's going to come back to how much time and efficiency are we creating through these programs. And that's not just on the back of house maintenance side of things. You're going to see that in leasing as well. How fast can we get from where we're at to that prospect, and that prospect can go around that community, engage with us, ask us questions efficiently. These are little metrics that they're going to be exposing, not just at a property level, but at a regional level, and they're going to be looking back at the technology partners of theirs to say, okay, are you doing what you need to do to pass me the right data from one partner to another, so that way we can look at this information and assess, do we have the right investment thesis with you from one property to potentially the entire portfolio?
Yes, and from what we've been hearing, they do like to run these pilot projects, so really measuring as much data as they can and say, okay, does it make financial sense for me to take this solution and roll it out, maybe across my whole portfolio?
Absolutely. I think the barrier to entry for technologies to sort of get adoption in multifamily is going to continue to increase. The scrutiny that you have in the first 1 to 2 to 3 properties is going to be higher because they're trying to sort of put you in different environments. You're going to be maybe at a mid-rise, looking at different problem statements there, and they're going to expose you to that garden style in a completely different part of the country. They're going to expose you to the high-rise, and the reason why they want to do that is to see the versatility of your solution, how you work from an integration standpoint with your partners, how well you can go and meet the needs, the go-to-market perspective of what's happening on site with their residents and their site teams. And if they can model that well in a small echo chamber, and it takes them perhaps 3, maybe 4 quarters, I mean, this is a little bit of a lengthy process. Once they can feel confident that this is a scalable solution, then then the turnkey happens, and now there may be an underwriting decision at the corporate level to say, let's bring this at a broader adoption point.
That's a great point, because this is the first time that most of these clients are adopting this kind of technology, right? And to your point, they measure everything to the minute detail. And so if it's something that they've done in the past, they've got processes out the wazoo that they're going to follow. They know exactly what play to run and how to run it and who to run it with. With this, it's brand new. It's something that they haven't used before. So you see that through the sales process, through the install process, through the account management processes, that there's so many different departments involved, whether it's HR, IT, operations, sales, from your client, that I think it's up to the integrators to help provide a lot of this as well, right? Help providing the data that they need to make decisions for future properties.
being able to get it right from the beginning has been really essential for us. One of the things that we've seen is most of our customer base is coming from a mechanical mindset. So once they make that switch, if they don't get it right in the first few months, they're just going to go back to mechanical. They don't want to roll trucks, they don't want to pay for keying, but they also have to be comfortable right off the bat. And to your point, scalability is one of the biggest things that we've been seeing as well. I mean, relatively basic on the garden style, but as you scale up, the costs scale up, the complexity scales up, and that's something you need to meet for as well.
And Greg, what are you seeing at Johnson Controls in terms of kind of how people are evaluating these solutions and what they're interested in?
You're saying automating solutions?
How are they evaluating?
Oh, the value add, for sure. Well, certainly, I think the perceived value of having a secured home and then extending that out into automated services and being able to do that within a common ecosystem and having a great selection to do that from a partnering standpoint, that to us is a very obvious, immediate, adjacent market. They already have confidence in the brand. They have confidence in the viability of the solution and the market segments that we cover. So for us, adding locks, adding some of the other features are an extension of that. We consider that more automation, so that you can control more of the climate and other items. Beyond that, perimeter security is big. Access control out at the perimeter. So we have specialized technology that can address that. And again, being a multinational brand that can provide that for us has been probably one of the more attractive elements that we have in these conversations in terms of delivering value as a manufacturer.
Yes, and I think we've been hearing a ton of demand for access control, and access control oftentimes is the tip of the spear for kind of a more widespread deployment of technologies. So Hagan, so we've been talking a little bit about kind of what companies are looking for when it comes to deploying solutions, but when it comes to like actually deploying them, so rolling them out, what are some things that kind of companies should keep in mind and kind of product makers should think about when designing their solutions?
Yeah, I think it's just about meeting the needs of that end consumer. I don't think that we should necessarily dumb down the solutions necessarily. What we advise property managers or if we're developing a new build is just to think about simplifying or working on boilerplate kind of standard templates, and then we can work with the resident. And for us, it's a gift. So we can have residents who we can partner with to develop, customized solutions. And so that way we can develop wire, partner with OEMs to make sure that there is a whole, integrated solution that's going to work really well for the property manager. And then just because we're a national brand and because we have the backing of our brand behind Daisy, they know that they can count on us to be there for not just the lifetime of the build project, but the lifetime of each resident and the residents that come, after as there's turnover. Our company actually loves truck rolls. So we're very different, I think, from how probably companies before us in home services, and also in some of the, supply chain side or manufacturer side has probably thought about this industry. And so if you think about multifamily, even better. So we're building out, route density. We're building out density as we build out this brand nationally. So in the single family side, we can go from home to home to home and do kind of a 30-minute system checkup. We do this for free. It's 30 minutes just to check up and see, how is your system performing? And from there may be a service call. There just may be a broken remote control. Babies step on remote controls, and those need to be, troubleshooted. But there also could be some speakers that you need to be installed by, a putting green. Don't we all have those challenges in life? So that happens as well. Well, as we look at the multifamily space, talk about density. We park a truck, we can certainly work on servicing a whole building and help our OEMs and improve kind of the NPS scores and kind of the satisfaction and the brand awareness, and make sure that there's good quality just from the fact that they're maintained over time. We can also ensure that customers have good knowledge and education, over the time of the lifetime of those brands. So, those are some of the trends that we're seeing from residents and also from property managers.
All right, and then Eric, I'm going to pick on you a little bit more. So you were mentioning, I think the way Kwikset was looking at kind of retrofitting and deploying its smart locks into different properties, making sure that they would work even without Wi-Fi. We've been hearing from a lot of properties that Wi-Fi has been a big challenge when it comes to retrofitting, just because it can be very costly to build out those networks depending on how the property was constructed.
Yeah, it's been interesting as we've gone out, and with ASSA ABLOY, we have the advantage of having a pretty thorough spec writing team in addition to what we have with our sales team at Kwikset. As we've gone out and we've interacted with customers, kind of understanding what their needs are from the offset. If you're coming into a retrofit situation, it's challenging because the networks are there, the infrastructure is there, and convincing people to upgrade that can be quite challenging. Our solution is offline based, so we are able to have a cloud-based infrastructure that passes data through from the phone down to the lock, and the lock is independent of the network. But what we're seeing in a lot of new construction is this demand for these full service, the SmartRents, the ADTs, these recurring revenue services that offer this value that justifies that. And being able for us to integrate with them has been very helpful for us. But understanding and kind of communicating to the sites that depending on the network connectivity you need, some of the expectations that you have for what you're going to deliver may not be realistic. So understanding that for the suburbanized garden style that we really compete in, do you really want a router on every floor? Are you really going to pay for this when your rents may not offset it? Versus a mixed use or a mid-rise where you really can have that. It's all education and working with the customers and understanding really what their needs are as well.
Yeah, so those needs, as you're saying, can be different depending on certainly the building type, how old the building is, what it's made of. All of those factor in.
Also, what problems are they trying to solve? What is their overall goal in the experience and the brand they're trying to have to their residents on site? And I think that's where you have to absolutely just meet that customer where they're at that community. It's community by community. And when you think about it in those terms, what you ultimately want to create is just optionality. You want to be flexible. Perhaps at a certain community, you will be using Wi-Fi if that's there, that's a goal they have. But perhaps you'll be using different technology that rolls back on cell or Bluetooth. The point is to have versatility. And when you're thinking about deployment into this multifamily environment, if you have that versatility, then it comes down to what's the experience ultimately to the end user. And that's where, at the end of the day, all of this technology is just an enabler to the software experiences you create for the resident, for the site team. You can have a white glove around how you train them, how you set certain expectations, but you never want to be in a position where to solve a problem, you have to now spearhorn into this conversation let's go and run a really expensive circuit to your community because it has to be Wi-Fi. Well, it doesn't have to be that. If their problem was, I just want to deliver a move-in experience so my residents can have smart thermostats, have versatility, and meet them where they're at.
It's like you've talked about, the customer base out there is not asking for specific technologies most of the time. It's what they're able to enable. And what you were talking about, Hagan, as well, that demand pull generation from the resident base, we get a lot of the inverse with Kwikset, where our property management and our system integrators kind of tell us what they need for the residents. It's one of the unique things with multifamily that just has to be planned for. You have this dynamic customer-client model where the people who are using it every day may not be the people who are buying it. I mean, the purchasing decision for multifamily is not on the residents. And even though the residents are using it every day, they're not the ones that are paying for it. So being able to meet both sides of that market with a single solution, it's inherently challenged, but it's the thing we're all kind of going around here. So.
Yeah, and I think you notice that we've all kind of talked about in some way a multi-customer that we're approaching, right? Whether it's the resident, the property staff, the owner. There's one that we've kind of left off the list, I feel like, which is the technician. And so for those that are designing products, like this needs to be a fast install, right? This can't be something that you're on site in a unit for 8 hours trying to learn in a device or program a hub, like the expense of doing this for both the property and the integrator, they need to be able to turn over units rather quickly. And so be able to create that experience for the technician to be able to install quickly, move on to the next unit is very important.
Yeah, that's where that kind of boilerplate, having kind of the basic template for every unit would really work well. And then, I'm just thinking of one example just out of my hat, like Daisy, for example, could come in and then customize,
Never heard of
for
Daisy.
example.
Yeah, so we have one question left in just a couple of minutes. Maybe we could do kind of like Daniel did in our last session, just a lightning round. So what do you think is on the roadmap for 2025? What are you most excited about? And maybe 2 sentences each. Hagan, if you can kick us off again.
Oh, I'm really excited. I think I've already talked about services, and so kind of being there for the customer, helping kind of the OEMs out in terms of brand and ensuring that we're there for customers when they need us, and having that ongoing services. So, and whether they're a multifamily resident, I think most of the innovation is actually probably coming from residents of these multifamily businesses. So listening them and going back to manufacturers and saying, hey, we've got some pretty cool ideas here. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I think for us, it's going to be a very exciting year, and I'll try to keep this super brief. We have it's kind of our mainstream panel. We have restyled, if you will, for the multifamily market. We're coming out with a brand new line of automation to allow additional lighting control and several other things. So we've got a portfolio that's been under development that's begun deploying, and we're super excited about that. And we're talking about protocols and everything else. This thing is a rock concert of radios. It is dual path connected to the cloud. I could go on and on and on, but that's it. Now the other thing, and kind of the complement to it, is the customer experience. And I was going to piggyback onto John's comment a moment ago, but the technician, the person that's installing and servicing, the CX that they experience for a fast install, and there were some very unique challenges in the multifamily space with mesh devices and everything else. We've poured a lot of effort into that to make it very, very cool and very fast to keep that operating cost low. So just plenty. Hopefully we'll be able to connect with folks at the. Everybody's going to be coming to the happy hour later, but we could go on. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, it's good to hear.
So is the happy hour the thing you're looking forward to most in 2025?
Certainly, yeah. You got to. Every journey begins with one step, and that step begins at about 6 p.m. tonight.
Look, macroeconomically, I'm just excited for the market going back to kind of the way it was in the past with interest rate and just transactions overall increasing. From an ADT standpoint, we're relaunching our own multifamily platform. It's dedicated directly to multifamily users. And so it's not just the traditional ADT product with a paint of multifamily slabbed on it. It's built for this client base that we've been discussing today. And it includes a level of mobile security. So it's a security that can go with you if you're a leasing agent or if you're a resident. And you have an SOS button that'll connect you to an ADT monitoring agent. So it's this ability for us to connect and protect folks wherever they are, not just on site, and build that sense of community for that resident through that service that we provide. So shout out to Ashley Etwine, who runs our product and engineering team, for all that good stuff.
Yeah, and selfishly from our side, I mean, Kwikset's a lot company, right? But our Kwikset Unite portfolio, we developed this with a very thorough software and cloud ecosystem that we only expose a little bit of it. So as we come into 25, understanding from the market what they're actually looking for with regards to that trade-off between that customization versus that ease of use. We think we have it right now, but opening that up, particularly as from a more macro sense, we are seeing many more renovations than we thought we would. And I think that's really going to influence where the feature set goes and kind of what track we follow. So understanding where that goes, and as you're saying, of kind of some leveling out of some of the interest rates as well too, that construction is going to be picking up again in the next couple of years. So just excited to see where that goes and kind of continue to build upon that for Kwikset.
Well, as we turn the corner in 2025, from a SmartRent perspective, for many of our customers, this is no longer a novelty and amenity. This is becoming infrastructure at the community. What I'm really looking forward to seeing, I mean, among many other things, is just the stories that we can tell and the insights that we can share, namely around energy and sustainability. There's so many of these customers of ours that have their reports around this topic be, how many trees did we plant this year? But you know, the underlying value of what the smart home technology can deliver is insight into that perspective of what is happening around energy behavior and usage in this community across the units, and how can we make sure that we find ways to influence that in a positive manner.
Well, thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us today and for that wonderful discussion. Please join me, audience, in a round of applause and thanking our panelists.